Welcome to the show, Matt. How are you doing today?
Hey Luis, yeah, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Good. Yeah, I've been wanting to have you here on the podcast for a little while. I've been following your YouTube channel, and even before you had a YouTube channel, Structured Congress, I remember in 2019 or 2018, when you just had started a YouTube channel. That was kind of the first time I really saw you. And since then, obviously, you have grown that YouTube channel to thousands of followers and inspiring a lot of people. And obviously, with the Structural Engineer channel podcast and all those things that you're doing, it's just amazing to hear your story. And I think that's kind of where I want to start this conversation is on the creating side. When you think of engineers, you think of the numbers, of the science, the math, and everything, but you don't think about like the creative side of engineers. What really led you to start that creative side of your journey in your career?
Yeah, so in terms of the YouTube channel, I didn't really I wasn't one of those people that wanted to like be a YouTube person, back when they were young. Like that was like the last thing on my mind. What really got me
Hmm.
into the YouTube space was uh, Uh, basically, I was just thinking of me back then and how much help I could have used if I had found this stuff on the internet. Because I would also, when I was back in school, I'd Google things like about structural engineering, what a career is like. But unfortunately, there was a lot of negative things like on the forums from people that didn't like their careers. But I still liked it, and I actually got into it because I've had people that were actually in the industry and I knew what it was really like. And if you had a good work environment, how much fun it can be and what a fulfilling career it was. And for me, I didn't see that when I started the channel. That was one of the main reasons is I saw that that was lacking. I talked to people, young students that wanted to be interns and stuff, but they didn't know too much about the industry at all. I would have figured that there would have been more resources out there by the time I was interviewing new interns or whatnot, but
Hmm.
there wasn't. And yeah, I went to like a few. I think even that ASC SCI Congress that we went to. I think like those types of events like really inspired me because you can see that the problems that the structural engineering industry was facing, and I just thought to myself, what can I do to help out that? And I knew no one else. I did my research on what one of the things the best ways to like reach out to engineers to show them what it's really like. And yeah, I did the research. YouTube is the way to go. And so I was like, oh, I guess I got to do this if I want to help people out. So it was kind of like a
Yeah.
fight, looking at the end goal and okay, what do I need to do to, to impact students or young engineers that want to get into that profession. And yeah, YouTube was the way, and I kind of just forced myself to do it. Really uncomfortable, but I knew it was like, okay, that's the way to do it. Someone just has to do it, and for me, I was like, okay, no one's gonna do it except if you don't do it, no one else is gonna do it. And I'm sure you're in the same way with your content creation. Uh, it's like no one else is gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So that's where it started. That wanting to help basically myself out that I knew young engineers were also going through. So putting those resources, those positive resources out there, that's really what inspired me to start it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to with me. Like again, coming from a different country, you really don't have those resources that you want to have when you are starting your career, when you're trying to develop the skills, find a job, and all these things that maybe a little harder than other people in the industry. One of the things that I really like about you and what you're doing is like you're still a full-time engineer. You're still pursuing licensure. You just passed your structural engineering exam. You are still doing a lot of things on the engineering side, but are also putting some effort and some time into YouTube to teach others what you are doing. Tell us a little bit about what you do as an engineer during the day and how maybe you have found that having a YouTube channel, having these platforms to have that creative side has helped you during your day job.
Yeah, so it helped in a lot of ways. So working as a full-time structural engineer, what I do is I design buildings. I work in the building sector, not the bridges. So for buildings, I'm essentially designing apartment buildings, mid-rises, high-rises. I work on all sorts of building types. That's one of the things that I love, just working on different types of projects. And yeah, that involves uh, doing calculations, managing projects, managing budgets, coordinating a lot with the architects and the contractors and all the different parties that are involved in designing a building, and also helping the new engineers out and giving them resources to help them succeed as well. So that's what's in terms of my full time job, and then YouTube, how it's helped me in that aspect. Because some people think it's just maybe two separate things, but it's when I started it, it was I wanted them to be what do you call it, symbiotic, or if my YouTube channel was going to help my career out. It wasn't just like two separate
Mhm.
careers. So when I got into that, it's definitely helped me out, especially as I've grown. I was a project engineer when I first started, and then throughout the years, I went into more of the project management side. And with project management means more communication, more speaking in front of clients, in front of people, mentoring, teaching people, and YouTube kind of helps you do that because you're talking to, even though it's an inanimate object, you're still talking to a camera, and you can still work on your communication skills. And even like during presentations, it definitely helped me out with communication because um, yeah, I can ramble on forever, but it takes work to get your message into a shorter format. So
Yeah.
YouTube's definitely helped me out on that, but it's also helped me out in, so that's what's in terms of the career, but also, I mean, it's even helped, my firm too, in terms of recruitment. People, young engineers see the YouTube videos, and they find out what company I work for, and like I don't necessarily say like, "Hey, I'm part of this company." They go on LinkedIn and find me, and they figure it
Mhm.
out. But it's even helped with their recruitment and retention. So even a lot of the luckily my company recognizes that too, and like that's an asset. So I'm helping not only my company out, but it's helping me out. It's helping new engineers out. So uh, the YouTube channel was really an amplifier. It wasn't just its own separate thing. It was an amplifier in terms of the structural engineering resources, my company, and even the industry. So that's what's really great about it.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of companies don't really identify that as an asset. I know my company is very supportive as well, especially since like what I do is really related to engineering, helping young professionals, and creating a career plan and all those things that are important when you're starting your career. But on top of that, like you said, just talking to a camera, talking to a microphone, sometimes by yourself, a lot of times an interview like this really helps those communication skills, getting your ideas down, and really just being intrigued about what other people have to say and what other people have to or what other people are doing in their careers, which I think is comes well when you're talking to a client, when you're trying to communicate a design, when you're trying to do all of these things that as engineers we are not really trained when you're in school. You're trained about the numbers, calculations, and everything, but the communication skills kind of fall to the side, and we're not really too much into that. And something that I found that doing engineer feature, doing all these things outside of work, has allowed me to bring some of those skills to work, as well as just have help me like manage the time, especially during the day. I think having less time overall, just kind of focusing on these other things, has allowed me to manage my time a little better. What are some of the things that you have done to balance these two things? And I know you have other things like ACE, family, friends, other things around, but how have you taken the time you have and make the most out of it? Do you have any tools, techniques, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I try to block out my schedule, and of course, it doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
But just realizing how much time I can waste just watching TV, or maybe even YouTube, depending on what I'm watching. If it's a waste of time, or I wouldn't say waste of time, but if you splurge too much, you could waste like you could be binge watching a whole season for a whole day, or weekend, waste the whole weekend just binge watching things. And I still do that stuff for sure. Like that's how my stress relief is. I still have like video games, Netflix, going out and hanging out with friends. So I don't necessarily think they're a waste of time, but they are, in terms of you can definitely overindulge in them, and then that's when I start to think like, oh yeah, I'm kind of unproductive. But for me, in terms of getting those things in, definitely making it a habit. I'm sure you know what the importance of habits are. And
Mhm.
for me, blocking out time where I don't get burnt out, because if I notice sometimes when I work too much, then I can feel myself getting burnt out with everything going on. So for me, I try to balance it out, have a set schedule on what I'm going to work on that week. I'm going to work on maybe video making or editing or whatever, after work or maybe on the weekends sometimes. But also making time for relationships and friends and family and some leisure time as well.
This episode of the Near Future podcast is sponsored by Basecamp. Basecamp is a project management and team communication application that has been around for over 18 years and is used by thousands of companies today. Basecamp helps keep your team organized and on track. If you work in a project team and have not tried Basecamp, you need to give them a try. They give you all the tools your team needs to work together, including message boards, to-dos, file storage, chat, calendar, and more. Basecamp is great for growing small and middle-sized businesses that require better tools to get their projects organized. What I love about Basecamp is that they don't charge you a per user fee like other tools do. You pay a flat fee regardless if you are a solopreneur or a company of 50. Basecamp offers straightforward concepts to project management so you can focus on providing the highest possible value to your clients. It allows collaboration with internal teams and clients. A big portion of Basecamp customers use it to collaborate with clients. Basecamp was built to help teams stay in the loop of the work they need to do, but without overwhelming everyone with countless emails and notifications. I love their focus on life-work balance. Whenever you are ready to take control of your work, go to basecamp.com/future and sign up today to start a free 30-day trial. There is no credit card required. You can cancel online at any time. If you want to know if Basecamp is right for you, your team, sign up for a free trial, and that is the best way to do so. I really recommend you check them out. Remember, go to basecamp.com/future to get your free trial. Thank you, Basecamp, for sponsoring this episode of the Engineer Future podcast. Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I mean, content creation takes a lot of time. Like a lot of people think that you have a 10-minute video and just takes 10 minutes to record and edit and put it out there, but it takes sometimes hours, even a 5-10 minute video or podcast or anything. What does your content creation process looks like from just having an idea? Maybe you're scrolling through LinkedIn or social media platform, you see something that's interesting. Do you use that and then create a video? And like, what does that process look for you?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it comes from. Oh, for me, I use you can use any program, but I use Notion just to idea dump. Basically, if I
Mhm.
think of something that might be a good idea, whether I'm just walking down the street, watching a video, or maybe I see a forum post about structural engineering or any idea that comes to mind, I immediately just dump it in Notion. And then later on, maybe I can delve more into those ideas. Like, um, maybe what some career advice or what it's should engineers work from home? What are my ideas about that? Can I make a video about that? And so I get
Mhm.
all those ideas and I kind of just review them and then I'll pick which one I should make a video about and then I pretty much make an outline. I don't really like to script, but for me I like to pick a topic and then get some bullet points like one, two, three. Here are my points. But I also try to put in some good stories, good examples, th- maybe things that might make it a little more entertaining, and putting those ideas together. And yeah, pretty much figuring out what the shots are too. If you want to get more in depth, like what footage can I put in there that or what diagrams or what pictures can I put in there that would help the audience out and kind of like a short film sometimes depending on what video you're making. And then yeah, a bunch of recording, a lot of recording. It's weird talking to a camera, and even though those YouTube videos look like it's sometimes one take, there's so many takes. It's just weird talking to a
Yeah.
camera where I always have to press record and all of my mess ups. So that's pretty much my process. Yeah, just whatever
It's always
ideas
fun
come to
to go
mind.
back. Yeah, it's always go back to actually editing the episode or like the video and like seeing all the mistakes. And you're like, why can I say this? Like, it's just funny to talk to a camera when you're by yourself. Um, do you have any funny stories of just recording yourself or I know you did a day in the life, which has been a really popular video where you just kind of walk with your camera on work and do all the things. Do you have any funny stories of recording or anything related to YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think people would be surprised on how on all the bloopers that go into recording a video, right? So I don't know, for some reason, like for on this one-on-one, I can, talk pretty stream flow and just talk about things. But when I'm talking in front of that camera, like every other sentence, every other word is just like restart. And then camera restart. And then what is it? It ends up being, I think even my first video, I think the very first video I put out, just a intro video, it was like, I don't know, a couple minutes long, but it was less than 5 minutes long for sure. But it took me
Mhm.
about like 30 minutes plus to just record that. It's like,
Yeah,
it's something about talking to a camera just delays it. Maybe it's that sense of trying to get everything perfect or that you're being recorded. It's just something that I'm still getting used to. I wish I could just be a one take wonder, but that's something that's always
yeah.
like, that wasn't a 10-minute video, guys. That took like an hour.
Yeah, and I will say, like, yeah, these interviews are like super easy, super casual. Like, I barely have to edit these interviews, but whenever I do an episode by myself, especially like right at the beginning, like the first few episodes, like even I didn't have a camera on, I was just kind of talking to a microphone or like my phone, and it took hours to record like a 20, 30 minute podcast, and it was just painful to hear back and edit and everything. It's just, and now I do some of the episodes like me recording by myself with the camera, just talking about a certain topic, and it's the same. Like I get one sentence out, like then I forget what I was gonna say, and then it just takes so much time. It's just sometimes it's kind of ridiculous how long it takes to record a 5 minute video. Like it just takes so much time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
But something about talking to lifeless stuff. It's like talking to a
yeah,
wall. It's weird.
yeah. And you also have a podcast with the Engineering Management Institute. Do you want to share a little bit about that and what the experience has been from making YouTube videos? Because you only make like YouTube videos versus like a podcast episode. You know, like I put these videos on YouTube as well, but I don't have like a YouTube video where it's like 10, 15 minutes, a little shorter. What has been that difference between those two channels, and which one do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, so the difference with the structural engineering channel podcast, it's that's where I talk to professionals with Kara, my co-host, and we're both co-hosting that podcast, and we interview structural engineering professionals and what their expertise are about the industry, about their experience, and that's been really cool because a lot of the time I'm not talking, and it helps me develop um in terms of just like the benefits for me when I'm doing those podcasts. It helps me listen a lot more. I don't have to worry about talking, and sometimes I feel like I talk too much, but that's the time when no, it's time to listen. So it in terms of communication, it helps me really listen in and trying to ask and come up with thoughtful questions or comments. That's really helped me out. But even in terms of what was really cool about the podcast is that really seeing what the industry has to offer. I think all the different career paths that I've talked to, so many professionals, they have so many different career paths that all branch
Mhm.
from structural engineering. I think a lot of us think when we're students, yeah, we're going to design buildings, bridges. But talking to all these professionals, there's so many ways, so many career paths in structural engineering. And so many ways to find success in structural engineering by having that structural engineering degree, civil engineering degree. And, all of them had a lot in common. I think one of the main takeaways from those podcasts is how to be successful is definitely building up your network and, saying yes to a lot of things, but also getting involved in ASCE or bringing something into the community or your company. So definitely not just being in your cubicle and just working on calcs all day. No, they don't become successful by
Yeah.
doing that. They go out, develop their communication skills, and they go lead something. They become part of groups, engineering groups, professional groups. All those things they all had in common, and that's one of the things that I really have gotten taken away from those podcasts. Still. And I forgot your other
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
but
I really enjoyed. No, I really enjoyed the podcast, and again, I think I was uh, the fifth or sixth guest back in the day when Anthony was doing it with you, and it was just a great podcast. Been following since then, and yeah, like you said, there's so many fields of engineering, of civil engineering. There's so many fields of structural engineering that is crazy to see. Some people work in dams. I work in like bridge simulation, which is like completely different than bridge design. And you see all these specialties that when you're in school you don't really know they exist. So it's kind of cool to see that in a casual conversational form, and it's a lot of fun. The other question was how does it compare to like YouTube channel, and which one do you enjoy doing the most?
I enjoy the creative process the most in terms of YouTube because it's something that
Mhm,
uh, I create and come up with,
mhm,
etc. But the process is definitely longer. I do like the informality of the podcast. It's kind of
mhm.
just, hey, we got some questions that we want to talk about, and let's just have a conversation and let's see what happens. So it's kind of more improv, I guess, on in terms of the
Mhm.
podcast where we'll just have a conversation. We're going to talk about these topics and let's see what we come up with. So I really like that aspect of it, and the listening aspect too, because it's
Yeah.
you meet different types of people and they all have something different. It's like they all have their own journeys, and it's always cool to see what you can take away from those podcasts by listening to different types of individuals. And yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I tried YouTube for a few months and I was just overwhelmed by the amount of work that uh, you have to put into creating one of those videos and editing and doing all of that stuff. And it's funny to think that your YouTube channel is videos between 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little longer sometimes, versus a podcast, which is sometimes 40 minutes, an hour. But when you look at the behind the scenes, making that YouTube channel probably took you an hour, maybe 2 hours, versus the podcast. Sometimes I just record this and comes out of these and just post it directly into the podcast host, and it takes no effort after the podcast. So it's kind of funny to see the difference between the length of the two, and how they really compare in terms of the creative process. Something let's just shifting gears a little bit into more of a career aspect. I know you just passed the SE exam. First of all, congratulations. That's something that is very high up in my list of maybe someday I'll get the courage to study for that exam. I know it was a long process. I know you failed a few times along the way. Uh, what was that journey like, and how did it compare to your PE experience?
Oh man. Oh geez. So yeah. So for um the PE, I did pass on my first try. That was like the PE exam, and then in California, the seismic and surveying. So going into the SE exam, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I mean, I passed my PE the first time, and I've been working in structural engineering for 3 years, after passing the PE. And yeah, definitely underestimated it about because it was in terms of like the difficulties. And I think half the challenge of it is the big difference between the PE and the SE, I think, is the
Mhm,
way they format it. Multiple choice in the PE versus multiple choice in the morning, but the essay portions in the afternoon, those are for me, those were really tricky. And it was
mhm,
kind of counterintuitive, and that's what always caught me off guard. And I think my test taking strategy for that was it wasn't the greatest. It was good enough to pass like the gravity, but that lateral
mhm,
portion, yeah, I think I failed that like 3 times, and it sucks doing because you'll put in at because the PE is about 100 hours, I think, on average for a good chance. For the SE, it's at least 300 hours to even like have a
mhm.
chance from what like the statistics are, I guess. And I definitely put in more than that, but yeah, it is demoralizing once you fail those things, and then you gotta go do it all over again, and,
Yeah.
it definitely put your life on hold because 'cause you're studying for 3 months, you have a break for 3 months, studying again, and so I really couldn't do, much from That's why I said like my life was like on hold for like 2 years. It was just like,
Right.
oh, 3 months to relax and then do something, and then oh, back to studying again. So it was definitely harder, and definitely the test taking strategies were, I think, were key to me at least doing better on this one and actually finally passing. So there's definitely a struggle, a lot of sacrifices,
Yeah.
friends, family, relationships, but worth it in the end, I think. That
Yeah, absolutely.
was
I'm sure
painful.
you feel so much better now
Yeah.
than maybe we were even be on the thick of it. I'm curious about your test taking strategies. I just released a course for like PE for the PE, just from my experience taking the exam, helping engineers study better, study faster, and just take the PE with more confidence. I'm curious to hear what were the test strategies that you took into place for the SE exam.
Yeah, for the multiple choice, it was probably the key strategy was going through all the questions in the very beginning and writing all the ones down in terms of like difficulty. So instead of like
Hmm.
doing the first problem all the way through, it's take 10, 15 minutes to go through all of the questions first and just like skim through them and just like rank them in terms of difficulty. And then for me, that's how I would pass the multiple choice section, because that's the strategy, at least for me, for those. Just do all the ones that you know, and then leave all the
Hmm.
hard ones, or just don't even do the hard ones. So
Yeah.
completing as much as you can. So that was a strategy for the multiple choice. The depth was a another animal. If you want to hear about that,
Yeah, I would love to hear about that. If it doesn't bring too many bad memories.
yeah, sure, yeah. For the depth, it was kind of it was weird. So for me, because you get given you get given a word problem like, hey, go design this concrete shear wall as a word
Hmm.
problem, and then you're gonna go through it. So at work, you're gonna go through all of the steps and write down all the steps and go through all of it and get all of the numbers. Um, but if you do it that way, like the way you do it at work, and if you're not like super fast at it, you're never gonna complete it. So if you do it that
Hmm.
way, you're gonna run out of time. Um, but one of the main things that helped me out was showing the graders that what your process is going to be. So for me, writing an
Hmm.
outline or describing was sometimes more important than actually getting like the exact right number. So showing the graders that like, hey, I'm going into ASCE 7 and getting these proper wind loads because it's an enclosed structure and I'm using this procedure because of XYZ. And here's the equation. Uh, if you run out of time, you can put in like, here's the equation, but I don't have time to fill in all the numbers. But here's what I would do in terms of the procedures and the equations I'm using and why I'm using them. Uh, for some reason, that's when I pass. When I focus too much on trying to get the exact numbers and not write down the process, I
Hmm.
seem to have gotten a lot more wrong answers for those. So for and that makes sense. I guess that's communication, explaining to the grader that you know what you're doing versus you just scribbling down equations and they kind of seem random if you don't know where you're just pulling those equations from. And the grader, if you get the wrong numbers, it's hard for the grader to be like, okay, that's the right equation, but what are you trying to do? I don't know what you're doing. You did it, but you got the right number or the wrong numbers, so I can't help you out. So it's uh,
Yeah.
that's the tough part about the depth is trying to communicate to the grader on that time limit because I think 90% of people aren't going to have enough time to finish it. So you have to parse out your time and balance it with explaining to the grader what you're actually doing and that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and just how different the two strategies from the morning to the afternoon session are, and just the difference of like actual test taking. And I'm sure it was brutal taking it more than once and preparing for it more than once. So I think that's something that I really appreciate about you as well. Just talking about those failures, talking about the good parts of engineering, the bad parts of engineering, just really being very candid about your process and what you're going through and everything. Do you have any last advice for younger engineers looking into getting into engineering? Maybe they're starting engineering and wanting to have a successful career. Yeah, just any advice you have for the listeners.
Yeah, if they're engineers and or students, if they're a student and you're looking for an engineering career major, go do your research. There's lots of hopefully there's more content out there for whatever engineering career that you're looking for. And I'd say just go with the one that you think, first of all, know what you want. Do you want a lot of money, or are you doing it for something else? Like, do you want to, like for my journey, it was, yeah, I could have gone into computer programming or whatnot, but I didn't really enjoy it, but I knew it could make a lot of money. For me, structural engineering, it made less, but I mean, the idea of designing buildings, that was so cool to me. That was like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm in. Like, I want to design stuff. And for me, I think that's why I've enjoyed my career so much. Maybe knowing what you want and what are you willing to live with, and ask professionals what what they what their days are like, and actually talking to someone. Just don't go on the internet only. Go talk to actual professionals. That's what you'll really learn what it's like. So uh, definitely talk to the professionals if you're a student, and if you're a practicing engineer, a seasoned engineer already, you've been in the industry for a couple years. Don't neglect your communication skills. I'm sure technically you're great, like all engineers should be, but I think from what I've seen, the really great engineers are the ones that know how to communicate, and whether that's leading a team, taking public speaking classes, doing anything to or technical communication, technical writing, anything that can help you improve your communication skills. I think that's what's really going to help you accelerate your career as an engineer. Because if you have technical skills, communication skills, oh, like you can do anything. So yeah, definitely work on both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's some great advice. And something that I always tell people is just don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of people out there want to help you. Like I personally love getting messages from people that reach out, want advice in their careers, helping them with any challenges or anything. It's always fun to see what other people are working on, what they're doing, and obviously help younger engineers kind of in their journey. That's kind of the whole purpose of the podcast and anything I do with my business. I just have one last question for you, and that's how can we continue engineering our future?
I think one of the things that I see, at least in civil engineering and structural engineering, is making better use of the internet. Like I love what you're doing, and I think more people should be doing it. Putting themselves out there. Whether you don't have to go make a YouTube channel or a podcast, but at least having an online presence and sharing your
Mhm.
work, in civil engineering. I think that's the way you have to be if you want to inspire or reach the next generation. I think getting online, sharing your work, maybe just take a couple photos, post on Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever. Just something like that, sharing your profession, sharing what you do and what you like about it and what you're doing on an everyday basis. And then that's where the future generation is hanging out. And
Mhm.
I know we can still go to schools like one by one, and visit them. I think that's great. I think that's more impactful than just being online. But being online, you can reach so many more people than talking to one person one at a time. So I think it'd be great if more engineers had an online presence and shared their work, because I think that's what's going to inspire the next generation of engineers.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this. I'm sure that's one of the reasons you're doing your content creation and everything. I really appreciate you coming to the podcast. It's been great talking to you. It's been great following your journey. And yeah, where can people find you, follow you, reach out to you if they have any other questions in the future?
Yeah, sure. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Just type in Matt Picardal. It's a pretty unique name, or you should be able to find me pretty easily on LinkedIn, or go to. You can also uh, leave some comments on YouTube videos, and Matt Picardal, the YouTube channel. If you just type in Matt Picardal with one T, you should be able to find the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. And yeah, thank you for coming to the show. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Luis.
If you really enjoyed this episode of the Gen Future podcast, you're going to love the content we have over our website at luisfelipeduque.com. You can find the link in the description of this episode as well as the show notes at luisfelipeduque.com/podcast. Every episode comes packed with a lot of links, a lot of information. So you can find all the show notes and all the information related to this episode over at luisfelipeduque.com/podcast. Thank you so much for coming back to this episode. Thank you, Jack Winters, for the music. And as always, let's continue engineering our future.